Widowed billionaire returns home at 3 a.m., catches black maid doing this, shocking truth revealed. The clock struck 3, its eerie chime echoing through the expansive halls of the mansion, a place once filled with laughter and warmth, now cloaked in somber shadows. Charles Whitmore, the recently widowed billionaire, had come back from a long night of drowning his sorrows in crystal-clear whiskey and cold cigars. Each creaking floorboard under his weight whispered secrets about the life he could never return to, but that night, something sinister lured him deeper into the darkness of his opulent estate. As he stepped into the living room, the moonlight streaming through the towering windows cast ghostly shapes across the floor, flickering like the last remnants of hope lingering in his heart. He halted, heart racing, as he caught sight of a woman moving stealthily through the shadows. It was Ruth, the new maid. Charles felt that familiar knot tightening in his stomach, confusion mixing with a primal instinct to chase away what he couldn't quite understand. She was supposed to be cleaning, but instead, her movements were strangely deliberate. What was Ruth doing at this hour, alone, in the dim recesses of his home? He squinted, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before him. Was it just his imagination, or was she it couldn't be was she stealing? The sharp glint of a small object caught his eye, glimmering like a knife from the depths of betrayal. He took a step forward. "What are you doing?" The words echoed through the silence, primal and raw. She froze, her back to him, every inch of her tensed in a moment of shock. He felt the crowd of emotions hit him: dread, anger, disbelief. But before he could process the scene more, the room seemed to hold its breath. Richard's pulse thumped loudly in his ears as he braced for her answer. Was she about to lie, to cover up whatever secret she was hiding? Or was it something much more bizarre? As he edged closer, the questions clawed at him: what kind of truth was about to unfold? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Charles watched, breath held, as Ruth slowly turned, her eyes wide, reflecting the moonlight with icy clarity. He could see the fear in her expression, but beneath it something else flickered: desperation. With a swift movement, she revealed what she had been holding tightly, and it wasn't what anyone would have expected. In that moment, time stood still. What came next would change everything, an unexpected twist that thrust the familiar into the realm of the unknown. Was it a simple misunderstanding, or a dark conspiracy woven through the layers of wealth and secrets? All he knew was that he had to find out more, before it was too late. Ruth's trembling hands opened slowly, revealing what lay within her grasp. The small object caught the pale light. It was a delicate silver locket, twisted and tarnished, its surface etched with intricate designs worn down by time. Charles felt a jolt of confusion slice through him. What was a locket doing here, and why was she holding it like a lifeline in a storm? "I found it." Ruth gasped, her voice tinged with urgency. "I swear, I wasn't stealing. I thought it might belong to you." Charles narrowed his eyes, suspicion mixing with intrigue. Why would Ruth be digging around for his things in the dead of night? "You thought you'd just take it? This isn't your business, Ruth." The words came out sharper than he intended, but he couldn't help it. The anguish of loss was still a raw wound, and the idea that someone would touch things he hadn't even been ready to face enraged him. I wasn't trying to take it. I was cleaning out the old trunk in the attic. It's just. I found this, and it upset me. I thought if it belonged to you, enough," he interrupted, drowning in a mix of grief and anger. "What do you know about it?" He felt his heart pound fiercely, the weight of loss twisting like a knife. He had already lost so much, he didn't want to deal with secrets and lies now. Ruth flinched but remained resolute. I know it belonged to your wife, she said, her voice firmer now. It was hidden away, buried under years of dust and forgotten memories. There's more up there, too, things that might help you remember her. The air between them crackled, charged with something earthy and electric. With every heartbeat, Charles could feel a shadow closing in, whispering that his grief was being toyed with. Why were you in my attic? He demanded, stepping closer, eyes narrowing, unable to shake the feeling that she was hiding something deeper than just a trinket. I'm sorry, Ruth replied, her voice trembling but earnest. I didn't know what I defined. You seem so lost since she passed. I thought if I could help, maybe it would make it easier for you, for both of us. Charles didn't know how to respond. The lump in his throat grew, swept by waves of despair and frustration. Did she think he was just going to let her rummage through his life? Did she see him as an easy target, a man barely holding it together on the brink of unraveling? But what else did you find? He asked, a low rumble in his voice. Then, before she could answer, a thought struck him like a bolt of lightning, a harbinger of something darker. Did you find anything unusual? Her eyes widened, the truth flickering there, and suddenly the shadows of the room felt like they were closing in. The air grew tense, filled with unspoken words and half-formed secrets that threatened to spill out. What do you mean? Ruth asked, though the tremble in her voice betrayed her. Just then, a distant thud echoed from the depths of the mansion, sending a chill down Charles's spine. The sound ricocheted against the walls like a warning, and his heart thudded heavily in his chest. Before he could turn away, he realized she was looking at him as if a shared understanding had passed between them, a connection forged in fear, uncertainty, and perhaps something close to hope. Stay here, he commanded, not sure if it was for her protection or his own. Moving toward the sound, he felt the threat tightening like a noose around them. But there was one thing he knew for sure, the night was far from over. What more might lurk in the shadows of his mansion? What dark secrets had Ruth uncovered beyond the locket? As fear gnawed at his insides, one question loomed larger than everything else as he stepped away from Ruth: was she merely an innocent maid, or was she part of something infinitely more sinister? The mansion loomed like a ghost, its darkened halls whispering of forgotten secrets and echoes of their lives. The thud came again, more pronounced this time, sounding like a heavy object being moved. Charles felt every nerve in his body heightened, a primal instinct screaming at him to run or to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. He turned back to Ruth, her pallor reflecting the faint light of the lantern. She looked vulnerable standing there, eyes wide and fearful, in stark contrast to the defiance she had shown moments before. The locket still hung from her grip, swaying slightly, and Charles couldn't help but see it as a pendulum counting down to calamity. Are you coming with me? He asked, every word fighting against his urge to flee. I should stay here, she stammered, her voice thin. But I don't want to be alone. A part of him wanted to shove the locket into her hands and tell her to leave it all behind, to run instead of facing whatever truth was about to unfold. But another part, the part that still clung to shadows of his late wife, urged him forward. No, you'll need to see this too. They moved cautiously down the dark corridor, the wood beneath their feet creaking as though in protest. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Charles strained to listen as they approached the source of the noise, slowing his breath, communicating silent resolve to Ruth. Another loud thud echoed, and a voice followed, a low murmur that sent icy fingers running down his spine. It was a sound he couldn't quite place, haunting yet familiar. They crept toward the doorway leading to the library, where past shadows danced in his memory, all things he once cherished and now seemed to haunt him. Stay close, he whispered. Fear and curiosity mingled as he pushed the door open. The hinges groaned, slicing through the oppressive silence. His heart hammered in his chest as he peered inside. The room was dimly lit by the flickering flames of the fireplace, casting erratic shadows on the walls. But it was the source of the sound that truly caught his attention. Papers were scattered across the floor, books lay haphazardly stacked, and in the corner stood a figure, cloaked in darkness and stillness. Who is there? Charles called out, his voice steady but betraying a quiver of uncertainty. The figure turned, a flash of silver glinted in the firelight, and Charles took a step closer. It was then that he recognized the face. His heart sank. Martha. He murmured, barely a breath escaping his lips, but Martha was gone. Was she? The figure shifted, the shadows wrapping around it like a dark shroud. You shouldn't be here, Charles, it said, the voice unmistakably his wife's, yet strained in a way that felt wrong, twisted. Ruth gasped beside him, her eyes darting between Charles and the figure. He could feel the room closing in, his grip on sanity slipping. How can this be? He stammered, grappling with disbelief. Some things are better left buried, she said, but her voice faded into the eerie atmosphere. Before he could comprehend what was happening, Ruth moved ahead, curiosity overcoming fear. What is going on here? Who are you? The figure turned fully, and Charles felt a pulse of fear. It wasn't just the shock of seeing someone he thought he'd lost, it was the undeniable aura of something deeply unsettling looming over her. I was trying to protect you, the figure whispered, her voice echoing hauntingly as the lights flickered again, like a heartbeat stuttering. The truth slammed into him like a train, the secrets, the locket, the attic. It all spiraled into focus, the pieces coming together but leaving him more lost than before. Ruth, get back! He shouted, just as shadows reached out toward them, darkness pooling in the corners like something alive. As the air thickened, the darkness seemed to pulse, ready to consume. What other truths lay hidden in his home? What was this entity trying to protect him from? And just as fear gripped his heart, he wondered if uncovering the past was going to cost him everything he had left. The next moment might change their lives forever or end them. What would happen when the darkness turned its gaze toward them? The shadows twisted around them, swirling like a tempest, as if gathering to strike. Charles felt an electric shock of terror run through him. The air seemed charged with an unseen energy, thick and oppressive. Ruth stumbled back, her lips parted in a silent scream, eyes wide with fear as the darkness encroached further. Get away from her! He shouted, the intensity of his voice cutting through the oncoming dread. He stepped protectively in front of Ruth, his pulse racing like a drum in his ears, drowning out the faint crackle of the fire. The figure regarded him with hollow eyes that glowed ominously in the flickering light. You will never understand, Martha's voice trembled, barely audible over the rising roar of the shadows. I did this to protect you, to save you from the truth. What truth? Charles demanded, his head spinning as memories of his late wife cascaded over him. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she'd always embraced the chaos of life. He felt a bittersweet pull, intertwining the love he held for her with the haunting specter now before him. You think you can just waltz back into my life and disrupt everything? He spat, his anger boiling over. You're nothing but an illusion. A flicker of pain crossed the figure's face, an emotion so real it cracked through the layer of darkness shrouding her. I'm not an illusion. I'm your past, Charles. I'm your answer. Ruth grasped his arm tightly, her fingers trembling, an anchor amidst the storm. Charles, let us get out of here. We can find the truth elsewhere. Her voice shook, pulling him back from the abyss of his turmoil, but he couldn't. This was his home. This was his life. The shadowy specter of Martha was dragging truths from the depths, truths he had buried deep in the ground of his heart. Keep away, Ruth! He yelled, turning his back toward her as if to shield her from whatever was about to unfold. He felt like Atlas, bearing the weight of the world, every secret coiling tighter around him, every painful memory rising from its grave. What sort of protection could she offer? Shrinking back into the shadows wouldn't save them, he knew that now. Martha! He forced the name from his lips. What do you want from me? Her gaze seared into him, laced with desperation and something primal. To show you what lies in the attic, she replied, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Open the door to the past, and you might save not just yourself, but her too. The flickering of the flames cast dancing shapes across the room, illuminating the tension. Shadows twitched maliciously, eager to swallow him whole. Anxiety pounded in his chest. Ruth tugged on his arm again, her fear palpable. "We can't trust her, Charles. Stay back," he shouted, his eyes darting between Ruth and the figure, the dichotomy splitting his heart in two, tearing apart his resolve. "Martha, if I open that door, will I find you?" His voice trembled, echoing with a vulnerability he loathed to show. "Or will you vanish again?" The shadows flickered and seemed to breathe, the room teetering on a precipice of chaos. "You must choose what you're willing to lose," Martha whispered, her voice softening as though it held a siren's call. "But no, once the door is opened, everything changes." His throat tightened, dread pooling beneath it. What had she meant? What was hidden in that attic that could shatter his world anew? But as shadows lunged for them, he caught a glimmer of determination in Ruth's eyes. She wouldn't just stand by. She had a spark that clashed against the engulfing night. A choice loomed before him. Would he dare to face the truth buried in the attic? In the thick of uncertainty, he reached for the doorknob, heart pounding like a restless drum. Would turning it mean salvation or annihilation? With every ounce of courage, he twisted it, the cold metal biting into his skin. Behind the door. Freedom. Or the end of everything. Before he could draw a breath, the door swung open, and an unearthly light spilled forth, spiraling around them like a whirlwind. The answers awaited, but at what cost? The door swung wide, and a blinding light poured into the room, enveloping Charles and Ruth. It felt like stepping into another realm, where time and space melded into something entirely other. The shadows were momentarily pushed back, retreating like a tide before the dawn, but the room thrummed with an unsettling energy that sent shivers down Charles's spine. "Charles!" Ruth's terrified voice broke through the haze. "We can't stay here." But the pull of the light was magnetic. Charles felt his body sway toward it, curiosity clawing at him, urging him to step forward, to discover. "Wait!" he shouted, trying to anchor himself. "We need to be sure." "Martha!" he called into the brilliance. "If you have answers, now's the time." A figure emerged from the flood of light, that same haunting silhouette of Martha, but more defined, intricately woven into the glow swirling around her. Her expression was intense, a whirlwind of emotion that mirrored the chaos inside him. "Time is fleeting, Charles," she whispered, the air thickening with her words. "Within these walls lies our past, the truth that binds our fates. To unlock it, you must dare to confront what you fear the most." Ruth clung to Charles's arm, her breath coming in shaky gasps. The luminous atmosphere felt electric, but it buzzed ominously, like a storm about to break. "Charles, please. We don't need to open this door. We can face whatever it is together, but we cannot go in there." Martha's figure flickered, as if caught in a lightning strike, her voice echoing with urgency. "You think you can escape what you've buried? The attic holds the key, Charles. It's where your true freedom lies. But at what price?" Ruth interjected, terror flaring in her eyes. "We've fought through so much. Why would you risk everything for a glimpse?" "I have to." Charles's voice boomed as he broke away from Ruth. The truth gnawed at him like a hungry beast, insatiable and desperate. "I need to know." With a surge of resolve, he crossed the threshold, the light washing over him as if flipping a switch inside. Memories flooded back, laughter, love, and betrayal danced before him, kaleidoscopic bursts of emotion. He felt Martha beside him, urging him to delve deeper. Around him, the attic materialized, dusty, forgotten, a haven of the past cloaked in cobwebs and shadows. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and something acrid. As he stepped inside, he caught sight of old trunks, faded photographs that seemed to whisper secrets, cluttered relics of a life once vibrant. Suddenly, the attic door slammed shut behind Ruth with a deafening crack, leaving her on the other side. Her mad scrabble against the door echoed in the attic, panic surged through her as she cried out, "Charles! Let me in. He turned, the urgency in her voice pulling him back, but Martha's presence held him steady. This is where it begins, she breathed ominously. You must choose, don't do this. Ruth shouted, pleading. You could lose everything, Charles. But the shadows in the corners of the attic stirred, whispering long-held secrets that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand tall. Each trunk beckoned, each voice within promising answers he craved but feared. In that moment, he felt the walls close in, the truth awaited, dark and alive. Stay with me, Ruth. He shouted, thumping a fist against the door, desperation pouring out. Open your eyes, Charles. Martha's voice echoed, dark and alluring. Only by letting go can you find what you truly seek. The air crackled dangerously, rifting the atmosphere, thickening with the weight of overwhelming choices. How long before the shadows consumed them both, in that neglected space, he stood teetering on the edge of revelation. Would he risk everything or flee back to the comforting dark? With breath quickening and heart pounding, he crouched next to an old trunk, the mysterious knot of his life tightening painfully in his chest. What lay inside? Secrets of a life unlived? Or a shattered mirror reflecting everything he feared to see? With trembling hands, he unlatched it. The trunk creaked open, and a wave of dust erupted into the still air, swirling lazily around him. Charles squinted through the haze, fighting a kick of panic as the old trunk revealed its contents. Inside lay an assortment of letters, their edges yellowed and fragile, photographs curled at the corners, and a single diary whose leather binding looked like it had weathered countless storms. The sight sent a jolt through him, igniting memories of a time he couldn't fully grasp. He reached for the diary, heart pounding as if it held the very secrets of his existence. Could this be the key to understanding everything? The darkness that had plagued his family, the whispers that lurked behind closed doors. Charles. Ruth's frantic voice broke through the barrier of his thoughts, her desperation cutting through the suffocating atmosphere of the attic. You can't do this. You're risking our safety. He winced, turning back toward the door, his hands shaking around the journal. The echoes of her fear resonated in his core, but the pull of discovery tightened its grip. Ruth, he began, voice tight, but the words slipped away as he felt a tremor in the floor beneath him. Martha's ethereal presence flickered beside him, encouraging him with a tilt of her head. You are on the threshold, Charles. The truth is your weapon, and the shadows can only hold you captive if you let them. Open the diary, find out who you are. Time stretched and twisted, the air buzzing with tension. Charles opened the diary, its pages cracking like frozen ice, and began to read. The handwritten letters unveiled a painful tapestry of love, deceit, and betrayal, the inked words revealing the very fabric of his family's history. With each passage, his heart raced, the weight of revelations tearing at his insides. Names he recognized twisted into dark shadows of grief. No, this can't be right, he whispered, stumbling through each page. Secrets spilled forth like a torrent, mental illness, affairs, betrayals deep enough to wound generations. Charles. Ruth's voice pierced through the fog of discomfort and confusion. Please, we need each other. This place is dangerous. His throat tightened as he read about his father's struggles, the silence that had wrapped around their family like a shroud. It felt like unearthing a wound that had been festering for years, exposed to the air after being buried. This is all just twisted lies, he muttered to himself, yet deep inside he felt the truth vibrating like a live wire. But the shadows in the corners of the attic grew thicker, colder, as if angered by his curiosity. A low rumble echoed through the room, vibrating the floor beneath his feet. He turned sharply, his pulse racing, feeling the encroaching darkness press against his back. Ruth! Get out! He shouted, fear churning in his belly. Outside the door, he could hear her muffled cries, her desperate attempts to break through. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far corner of the attic. He spun around, breath caught in his throat, eyes wide. A trunk not 2 feet away had flung itself open, the lid slamming against the wall, like a warning. Inside, a glimmer caught his eye, a glint of silver. Bright, dazzling, and entirely out of place amidst the decay. He stepped closer, heart hammering in his chest, curiosity waging war with terror. As he reached for what looked like a pendant, a chilling sensation crept up his spine. The shadows around him pulsed with a life of their own, whispering in hushed voices that churned his stomach. What else had this attic buried? What secrets were still lurking in the dark, waiting to ensnare him? Before he could grasp the pendant, the shadows surged, encircling him like a tightening noose. With a piercing scream, Ruth slammed against the door again, her frantic efforts relentless. "Charles, I can't lose you too." The fabric of reality ripped apart, and just as he gripped the pendant, a force yanked it from his fingers. The weight of history and truth pressed down as the darkness roared around him, threatening to engulf everything. What had he awoken in this cursed attic? Would the unfolding secrets lead him to salvation, or would they destroy everything he held dear? As the shadows twisted and the room darkened further, he realized one thing: he couldn't turn back now. But the question remained, could he survive the truth that was clawing its way to the surface? And then, in the chaos, a voice from the darkness whispered, echoing his deepest fears, "You're not alone anymore." What more was hidden in the depths of these shadows, and who, or what, would he have to face next? The shadows pressed in on Charles, whispers escalating into a cacophony that clawed at his sanity. Each hissing syllable shared the weight of his family's sins, merging his past with the malevolent essence that surrounded him. Panic gripped his chest, he staggered back, nearly colliding with the trunk as he fought to breathe, the air thickening around him like smog. "Ruth!" He called out, but the word crumbled in the deafening noise. She was outside, just beyond the wood. Desperate, he charged toward the door, barely noticing the darkness pulling at his heels like icy fingers. He slammed his palm against the door, feeling its solid structure but knowing she couldn't hear him over the chaos. "Get out of here. Please." The whispers shifted, harmonizing into a single chilling voice. "Why do you resist the truth?" It slithered through the air, a taunt. The pendant glowed dimly in the shadows, urging him to return, its silver sheen almost mocking him with promises of clarity and chaos intertwined, but Ruth's cries radiated through the door, full of fear, full of love. How could he betray that? He couldn't let this darkness consume them both. Taking a deep breath, Charles turned back toward the trunk. The dark energy swirling around him felt heavier, almost as if it was aware of his every move. He reached inside the trunk, pulling out letters and photographs, letting them scatter across the attic floor like fallen leaves. Somewhere in this chaotic mess lay the answers he desperately sought. A trembling hand held one of the letters, handwritten with a quivering script, dated years before his birth. He tore it open, breathless, the familiar scent of age and loss wafting from the paper. His mother's name glimmered like a beacon amidst the darkness. He read, words unfurling like a long tangled vine in his mind, secrets of a forbidden love, an affair that tore through their family like a storm. "Charles. Please, for the love of God, let us just go." Ruth's frantic voice broke through again, filled with urgency, pulling him like a lifeline. But just then, a loud scraping sound echoed from behind him. Cold dread slithered down his spine. He turned, the trunk now shut tight, and heavy footsteps resonated overhead. Who was in the house? Who was here with him? The temperature in the attic dropped, a chill wrapping itself around him like chains. He pulled a photo free, a faded image of a woman cradling a baby. She was smiling, yet the sadness in her eyes spoke volumes. Charles felt a tug in his chest. He recognized her. It was his grandmother. The letter in his hand slipped, fluttering down to reveal another secret. The baby was him, wrapped in her arms. His mind raced. Had she known the family curse? Had she, too, felt the grip of the shadows? He could hear Ruth pounding on the door, desperation fueling her attempts to break free. His heart thudded in sync with her frantic rhythm. He had to finish this. The photo slipped from his fingers, landing face down. The footsteps grew closer, thudding against the wooden beams, every sound sending waves of panic crashing down around him. Suddenly, everything froze. The attic was now an eerie silence, no whispers, no footsteps, just the pounding of his heart. "What do you want?" Charles shouted, the echo falling flat in the air, revealing his vulnerability as he faced the unknown. The shadows shifted, revealing brief flashes of movement at the edges, dark figures that danced without form. Then, amidst the obscurity, a silhouette emerged, gray and wavering like smoke. "You've awoken us," Charles. The voice, dark and low, slithered like a snake through the atmosphere. "Now you must choose. Seek the truth, and the shadows will swallow you, or cast aside the past and save your beloved." His choice loomed before him, igniting a torrent of both dread and determination. But could he truly turn away from what lay hidden? As Charles opened his mouth to respond, the attic door gave way, splintering as Ruth burst through, eyes wide and wild. "What is happening here?" And in that moment, everything shifted. The oppressive darkness seemed to recoil, fearing her light, but would it spare them both? What fate awaited them both as they stood now against whatever nightmares awaited in the dark? Would they be consumed by the truth, or could they fight together against the shadows threatening to define their lives? Ruth took a step back as her eyes widened in confusion and dread. "Charles, what is going on?" Her voice was a fragile whisper, barely containing the fear wrapped in it. The air felt heavy, the shadows shuddering at her presence. "Stay back!" he yelled, instinctively moving in front of her, like a shield against the unknown. The silhouette loomed larger, and he could almost imagine the outline of a face, twisted with malice, watching them. "Do you feel it?" he murmured, a chill dancing up his spine. The shadows stirred as if in response, swirling with a hunger that made his skin crawl. Ruth's gaze darted around the attic, taking in the scattered remnants of their family's past, the photographs, the trunk, the letters spilling out like secrets begging to be revealed. She stepped closer, driven by a need to understand. "What have you found?" "It's all connected," Charles said, his voice shaking. "It's about my mother and my grandmother. I think they knew about this darkness." Each word felt like a weight pushing him deeper into despair. "They made choices that changed everything." Suddenly, the dark figure moved forward, shrouded in mystery and malice. "You're obsessed with the past, Charles." The voice dripped with insidious calm. "But it won't save you. Nor will it save her." Ruth gripped Charles's arm, her nails digging into his skin. "What do you mean? Who are you?" Her tone wavered, caught between defiance and absolute terror. "The guardian of your family's sins," the figure hissed, as shadows coiled around its frame. "You've awakened something far beyond your comprehension. Seek the truth, face your legacy, or risk losing everything." Behind Ruth, the door slammed shut on its own, sealing them in the attic. Panic flickered in her eyes, and Charles felt his heart racing. "No. We have to get out." He pushed against the door, but it resisted, locked by some unseen force. The shadows pulsed angrily in response to their desperation, elongating, stretching endlessly into dark corners where light dared not reach. "Why won't you let us leave?" Ruth cried, her voice resonating with fear. "What do you want?" The figure lingered in the dark, its presence oppressive, a storm of secrets and regrets. "You will know soon enough. You both will understand the price of unearthing these truths." The attic vibrated with unspoken fears, and Charles closed his eyes, the weight of it all crashing down on him. "Ruth, listen to me. We have to face this together. Whatever happens, we stick together." She nodded, but her breath came in short bursts, eyes flitting across the room, lost in confusion and terror. "Together," she echoed, but doubt danced at the edges of her voice. "Your past is a curse," the figure continued, undeterred. "And it will demand a reckoning. Choose wisely, Charles. Unravel the darkness, or allow it to consume your beloved." With a stealing breath, Charles stepped forward. "What do we have to do?" Silence filled the air as shadows danced, twirling around them, heavy and swirling like a tempest waiting to strike. "Seek the truth," the figure coiled closer, its tone now almost seductive. "The choice lies not in the shadows, but in your hearts." Ruth's eyes flickered with understanding, and Charles knew what awaited them was not just a revelation but a confrontation with pain itself. As the figure retreated, the whispers grew louder, forming a chanting chorus of secrets long buried. In that moment, a belief ignited within him. He wouldn't turn away. Together, they would brave whatever haunted them, but before they could act, the shadows reared up, threatening to engulf them whole. "Look out," he shouted, instinctively grabbing Ruth's hand. Would they find the strength to face the truth? Or would they fall victim to the very darkness they sought to confront? The attic trembled with a fearsome pulse, and as they braced for the inevitable, Charles felt the very foundation of their lives quiver beneath them. The darkness was alive, and it demanded their attention. But what sacrifice was required to uncover the truth? The shadows lunged, and for a heartbeat, time suspended in chaos. The darkness thickened, wrapping around Ruth and Charles like a suffocating blanket. Fear pierced through every fiber of Charles's being, but he couldn't let the terror consume him. Gripping Ruth's hand tighter, he looked into her eyes, desperately searching for a flicker of bravery. "Stay with me," he said, his voice steady despite the tempest closing in. She nodded, though her fear echoed in her widened gaze. The figure slithered through the shadows, a twisted smile forming in the dim light. "You think you can rewrite your legacy?" It taunted, every word dripping with an unsettling sense of superiority. "What they buried, what they hid, can you even begin to comprehend its weight? You're not prepared. Then tell us how to prepare." Ruth shouted, the desperation lacing her voice, slicing through the oppressive gloom. "If there's a truth to find, show us." The figure paused, its outline twisting momentarily in contemplation. "Truths come at a price," it rasped. "Some costs are too high, even for love." A bitter chill wrapped around Charles. He felt the gravity of their situation, like walking a tightrope above a chasm of despair. The looming darkness flickered with hints of memories long past, like echoes of unspoken words written in the shadows. "What price?" Charles asked, knowing full well that whatever it was, it would shake the very ground beneath them. The figure tilted its head, and the shadows pulsed as if alive with anticipation. "Your mother made her choice," it whispered, sending shivers coursing through him. "And her choices bound her fate. Only in confronting her sins can you hope to unlock the past." The attic groaned, the air electrifying with tension. Ruth squeezed Charles's hand. He could see the dread creeping into her expression, but alongside it was a fierce determination that almost surprised him. "How do we confront her sins?" Charles asked, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "How can we fight this?" "Find the trunk," the figure replied, gesturing towards the pile of old belongings in the far corner of the attic. "It holds secrets, fragments of the truth masked by decades of silence. But beware, the shadows will defend what they guard." "Are you prepared to face your lineage?" Ruth's heart raced at the thought of digging into a past steeped in darkness. "We have no choice, do we?" she murmured, almost to herself. Yet her voice crackled with resolve. With a nod, Charles stepped toward the trunk, the weight of uncertainty heavy on his shoulders. He could feel the air thrum with ancient power, and energy pulsed between him and Ruth. "Whatever is inside, we'll face it together." The shadows stirred violently, swirling ominously as if sensing his resolve. When Charles reached the trunk, he hesitated, the grip of trepidation tightening around his throat. "Open it," Ruth urged, her breath hitching in anticipation. With trembling hands, he lifted the lid, a cloud of dust escaping like the breath of forgotten whispers. Inside lay a trove of memories, the photographs of ancestors, letters with ink faded, but it was the small ornate box nestled in the corner that drew his attention. As he took it into his hands, cold radiated from its surface. Timidly, he lifted the lid. A gasp escaped Ruth's lips behind him, a sound that echoed with awe and dread. They both leaned closer, dread pooling in their stomachs as the contents of the box glimmered under the dim light. "Charles," Ruth whispered, her voice trembling. "What is that?" Before he could react, the attic quaked. The shadows thrashed violently, and the figure's laughter rose above the chaos, haunting and filled with contempt. "You're only beginning, Charles. The truth has a way of awakening demons." The box throbbed, and at that moment, Charles realized that while they sought the truths held the power to destroy as much as to heal. What waited inside the box was a connection to the darkness that had consumed generations. As the figure's shadows lunged for them, Charles and Ruth clung to each other with fierce determination. Would they be able to confront their family's past and unravel the web of shadows, or was this the end of everything they knew? In that instance of chaos and uncertainty, a scream wrenched from Ruth's throat, and Charles felt the world slipping away. What had they awakened? And at what cost? The attic trembled, shadows swirling as if alive with a hungry darkness. Charles's heart raced with each thundering pulse as he clutched the ornate box, dread mixing with an undeniable current of hope. They had unwittingly entered a battleground of family secrets, and the stakes couldn't be higher. "Ruth!" He shouted over the cacophony, instinctively protecting her from the swirling shadows that threatened to engulf them. "Whatever happens, we face this together." "Together." She echoed, her voice trembling yet steadfast, intertwining their resolve like a promise etched in stone. The figure loomed closer, the shadows coiling around it like serpents ready to strike. "You think solidarity can shield you from the past? The price you face will shape your future." A deep breath steadied Charles as he broke open the box, the metal hinges creaking like a ghostly sigh. Inside, nestled on layers of velvet, lay a single object, the family amulet, a silver chain glimmering with a blue gemstone that caught the dim light like a trapped star. It felt heavy with history, weighty against his palm and somehow familiar, like a long-lost friend returning home. "Is that?" Ruth whispered, eyes widening in disbelief. "The amulet from the family lore. My mom said it held power." But power or not, Charles felt the shadows writhe in bitter anger as if they recognized the amulet. "You must fight for it, Charles." The figure hissed, its form distorting. "Those who wield it absorb the light but also the darkness that comes with it." "I don't care," he shouted defiantly. "I won't be a prisoner of my family's mistakes any longer." With a swift motion, he clasped the amulet around his neck, feeling an electrifying surge pulse through him. Energy coursed like wildfire, igniting every fiber of his being. The shadows recoiled, screeching in protest as the blue stone pulsed in rhythm with Charles's heart, revealing memories long buried. A vivid tableau unfolded around him, a glimpse into the past where generations of strife and love entwined painfully. He saw flashes of his mother's laughter, mixed with the shadows of her sadness, her struggles that had bled into his very existence. He bore witness to betrayals that threatened to crush the family legacy underfoot. "Confront it," the amulet urged silently, echoing in his mind. "Only through understanding can you find peace. No more running." Ruth shouted, her hands gripping his tightly as if anchoring him to the present. "We fight for our future. We lift the veil." Together, they stepped forward, hands clasped, hearts synchronized against the looming darkness. The shadows surged, attempting to swallow them whole, but the amulet glowed fiercely, illuminating truth and pain intertwined like branches of a twisted tree. "Face your lineage, Charles," the figure bellowed. "You will regret it." But regret had no power here, only the strength to confront what lay hidden. Charles felt the tide turn as they surged through memory, confronting whispered truths and deep-seated grief. Each confession released a fragment of the shadows, light sparking with every revelation. "Your ancestors made choices," the figure shrieked, fading with each moment of truth. "But will you make the same? Will you break the cycle?" In those charged seconds, the darkness around them faltered, revealing glimmers of possibility. Charles turned to Ruth, eyes blazing with determination. "No more curses and secrets. We end this tonight. No more fear." She agreed, voice rising with fervor. "We make our own choices." Whatever held them captive began to break. The shadows twisted violently, howling as the amulet radiated pure light, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. In unity, they presented their hearts, raw and unfiltered, and the shadows appeared to waver, losing their grip on reality, and then, silence, the oppressive weight of the attic lifted, revealing a stillness that felt alien yet healing. The shadows no longer suffocated but melted away into soft corners of the room, retreating like a tide ebbing from a shore. The figure lingered at the threshold before finally dissipating into the warmth of the dawn light that seeped through the small attic window. "You've broken the chains," it whispered, its essence intertwining with the remnants of the past. "But remember, the legacy is yours now." Charles and Ruth exhaled deeply, the weight of unspoken burdens finally lifted as the sun broke through, pouring golden hues over long-forgotten memories. The amulet still hung around Charles's neck, glimmering not just with history but with newfound freedom. "Is it really over?" Ruth asked, both hope and uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Yes," he replied with conviction, cupping her cheek. "We rewrite our story from this moment on. Together." The attic was full of light, revealing the years past cloaked in darkness now transformed into lessons learned and love cherished. They stepped out, hand in hand, leaving shadows behind, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they looked toward the future not with fear, but with hope made vibrant by the shared truth that their legacy was now one of their choosing. The sun hung brightly in the sky as they left the mansion behind, laughter of a new beginning echoing into the horizon. They ventured forth, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, together always together. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion.